it's easier to have a relationship with your body when you're getting fitter, faster, leaner. There is something about it that makes you feel more agile and more in control. If you can't make someone's day better, don't make it worse.
Yeah.
Don't say something unkind just because you don't have anything nice to say. Everybody has, circumstances they're dealing with or something they're going through or whatever, where they find themselves physically, what they like to do with themselves, what they want to eat, what they don't want to eat. I don't think it's anybody else's business but them. What I can't change, I don't like to bother about. I'm born like this. I'm born with a certain face and a certain voice and a certain height and a certain complexion. I'll do the best that I can with my skill. But beyond that, I don't bother.
So, hi everyone. Joining us today is an actress who you recently saw as Bimla Devi in Dasvi. And among all the other prep that she put in, she gained 15 kgs for that role. And her post on body positivity has gained a lot of appreciations. And as someone who's always been a size small or medium, as you mentioned in your post, how did you learn to love your new body? What was that process like?
Well, actually, Natasha, I had to remind myself right at the beginning of this process that this is work. This is my job as an actor. I have previously done this, for a web series called The Test Case, where I didn't put weight on, but I had to transform myself physically to fit the role of a commando. So that required me to have a very different kind of a body type, and I worked very hard on that. But that was a very different mind space to get into, because somewhere it's easier to have a relationship with your body when you're getting fitter, faster, leaner. There is something about it that makes you feel more agile and more in control. Whereas the opposite, where you are required to, go to the other end of the spectrum, that conversation with your body changes, because somewhere all of us are brought up and conditioned to feel like you're losing grip on what you should look like, and how your body is perceived to be beautiful because you're putting on weight. So that was a first for me. And genetically, I'm not somebody who's a heavy set person. I'm a medium and a small body type. I'm not a very tall person. I'm what is described as a regular Indian body type in that sense. So I had to change that narrative and tell myself that, this is work and this is something that's a choice. That is very important. So as a girl, I just needed to tell myself that this is not something that's happening involuntarily. It's a very thought through decision. It is something that's work, and it's not permanent. It's going to be this way for some months, and then there will be a time when I will methodically come back to where I started. And that was a conversation that really helped me. Plus, I had a lot of love and encouragement and support from my loved ones around me. So that was really, really wonderful. So all in all, it was a very warm environment for me to go through that process, which was many, many months. It was about 6 to 7 months. And there was no kind of set weight in mind. There was just a look which we wanted to achieve. And by the end of it, when we felt like, okay, now this is where we are in a good zone. I was about 15 or 16 kilos up, in weight from where I started.
And like you said, you received a lot of mean jokes, which are passed off as jokes, and unwanted comments as well. So was that a shock initially? Because obviously that's something you weren't used to.
Well, it was something that was a very interesting observation I had, on the environment around me. It was interesting, and it wasn't like it was a lot, but it was enough for me to give it a good enough thought, and for me not to ignore that this is what happens to people who have to live with an unconventional body type or a different skin color or features that don't conform to ideas of beauty and standards of perfection and whatever else that is. Initially, I used to be I used to laugh as well. I used to be like, oh, haha, whatever, I'm doing this for the part. And, so this is, then slowly, there were a few times when I said, this is very interesting that I did not ask for anyone's advice or anyone's comment on what I'm eating or what I'm looking like, but yet I'm getting all of this unsolicited feedback almost. I'm not really, I'm just me. You can say hi and you can tell me how you're doing and you can ask me how I'm doing, and that's that, But somewhere there was a strange access people felt because I wasn't looking myself,
Yeah.
look like myself to them. So that was very interesting. And it really made me think that, hey, I'm going to be done with this in a few months. But what am I really noticing here? And what is it that I can do, not just as me as a girl, but me as an actor, where people may just listen to me a little bit more than, someone who's not a public personality. What is it that I would like to say here about this? All that I wanted to open up this conversation about was that, um, it's something that I even wrote that, if you can't make someone's day better, don't make it worse.
Yeah.
Don't say something unkind just because you don't have anything nice to say. Or be cognizant of the fact that everybody has, circumstances they're dealing with or something they're going through or whatever. And it's nobody else's business but their own, as to where they find themselves physically, what they like to do with themselves, what they want to eat, what they don't want to eat. I don't think it's anybody else's business but them. And I feel like people closest to us, they could be our relatives, our best friends, our colleagues, anyone. Sometimes people just feel like I'm coming from a good place. I
Hmm.
mean well,
Yeah.
but that can be confused with crossing the line,
True.
and commenting on somebody's physicality or what you think beauty is and what you think. I mean, someone might just be happy being a certain size, and they might be absolutely comfortable and feel gorgeous and feel lovely about it. Do they have to like keep insisting on I'm like this, but I feel great? No, nobody should feel like that. These are just formulaic ideas of what we think beautiful is. I just wanted to talk about that. Really, the idea of me putting that post out there, and it wasn't to shame anyone back or to be aggressive about anything.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to put it out there. That let's be cognizant of what we say. That's it.
And especially, I think teenage is a time where, people need that kind of confidence. And that's unfortunately the time when they also get, these comments a lot when their body is changing.
Yeah.
And that's a very important phase. So, anything you'd like to tell teenagers who are going through all that right
Yes.
now? And what was your teenage years like?
Absolutely. I find it very worrying actually, Natasha, sometimes when I see teenagers and the kind of standards of beauty and perfection that they are fed by ways of Instagram and magazines and editorials. And it is a world where there is so much emphasis on filters that Instagram offers, or any kind of idea of perfection and beauty, which kind of can play with your mind after a point in time if you are not developed with your faculties that, hey, I'm just doing this for fun. It's entertaining to do this for me right now. And at that age, because you're so impressionable, you can start to dislike what the mirror is offering you. And that is very dangerous, because you are at a point in time in life where your energy and your mind space should only be occupied by, what are your skill sets? How best can you develop as a human being? Because, these are your foundation years. What you're going to do ahead as an adult will come from these years, because these are, you're making small choices, big choices. You're starting to make choices in life. This is that time in your life. And then if my mind is shrouded as a teenager with what I should look like over what I should feel and think and read and be like, then there is a point of worry. Like when I was growing up and I was a teenager, we none of us, we didn't have social media, and we had magazines and all of that, and but they were not unrealistic standards of beauty. They were beautiful people as they were there. They want such hard and fast rules of what a body size should be like. And I think we grew up in more protected and slightly insular kind of times, where, I mean, I had my first cell phone, I recall, maybe in college, which didn't even have a phone or anything. It was a Nokia 3310.
Yeah.
So these are the these are the times one has kind of grown up with. So once teenage years have gone away, and climbing trees literally, and running around on streets, and figuring out quickly you can do your homework so you can go out and play.
Yeah.
And I grew up in cantonments, which was an even more protected environment. I feel like, in keeping with the times, because you can't fight the environment and the time we're in. One has to have a good balance, and somewhere all kids, whether you're boys or girls, and you have all kinds of very sophisticated questions in your minds. I mean, me and my friends talk sometimes, amongst ourselves, that how silly were we when we were growing up. We had, the kind of, our worry used to be how to collect money to buy the next chocolate, or to buy the next ice cream, and what's in my piggy bank, and those were one's concerns and worries, and things like that. So I think it's very important for kids to, and teenagers especially, to uh, dress well and all of that, but develop all kinds of faculties: sports, extracurricular activities, debates, plays. Keep everything going. Don't just make it about what Instagram is all about.
No, but I think your generation of actresses, especially, it's talent that's given more importance, thankfully. And of course, all of y'all are beautiful, but y'all are like very different from each other, and it's all great. But have you ever, maybe lost out on a role because you weren't looking a certain way at some point? And how did that kind of affect you?
I'll be honest, I haven't blatantly been told that, hey, you look like this, so we won't be able to cast you. But maybe it happened without me knowing. Maybe it did. Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
True.
When you're not aware of why you didn't get something, the point is you didn't get it, moving on. So I'm that person. I move on quite quickly. I don't like to think about what happened and why it happened, unless it's constructive criticism, which I'd like to work on. And there is something that someone comes with, they'd like to tell me that, hey, this didn't work out for such and such reason, and you can probably work on this. See, what I can't change, I don't like to bother about. I'm born like this. I'm born with a certain face and a certain voice and a certain height and a certain complexion. And this is what I come with. I'll do the best that I can with my skill. But beyond that, I don't bother.
But do you also feel like, coming from an army background, that's also made you a lot, obviously you've traveled a lot, you've experienced different cultures, of course you have seen tough times as well, when your family was away. So do you feel that has made you a stronger person as well?
I think so. I think that there's a reason why you find so many girls from the services in the business, because we grow up in a certain way. We grow up in very liberal and very cosmopolitan environments. It's the closest you can find to like a big city like a Mumbai. It's like a mini version of a very big cosmopolitan city where you have one regiment and there are people from all walks of life, whose parents have been farmers and who are maybe coming from business backgrounds or whatever else. And then there is a uniformity to that. And then, you're traveling every 2 or 3 years. You have to make new friends every 2 or 3 years. You have to kind of re-establish yourself everywhere, So it's a very unconventional way of growing up. There are pros and cons, of course, but the pros are so wonderfully aligned with what this profession requires, So this profession requires you to come together and you become a unit, and then you're a family, and then you are, you kind of know each other so well because, you spend such long hours with each other at work, and then poof, you're gone. It's wrap and it's a wrap and everything's gone, and, you're on to the next. True. So you're always moving, you're always making new friends. And, so I think that way it really lends itself to this profession. So I feel very lucky that somewhere I think the universe had planted me exactly where I was, being my father's daughter and my mother's daughter, because I was leading up to this path, like it's almost like that, I feel.
And, we also want to ask you that, there are people, trolls, who obviously, also comment on how like a certain actress dresses, which we don't want to give much attention to. But anything you'd like to say to women who are facing these issues?
I think just do what makes you happy, because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself and no one else. Even the people closest to us, living in our own homes, have nothing to do with our well-being. Our well-being is all here. So do what makes you happy. If you are someone who has a great relationship with your body and with your mind, nothing and no one can come in the middle of that. So the best policy, and this is a self-experienced and a self kind of devised policy, and this works for me. I just blur the noise. It doesn't exist for me. I really do. I really don't pay any attention. I only ask myself, Nimrat, are you happy? Do you like what you see? Are you happy in what you're wearing? If you are, great. If you're not, change your clothes, wear something else. So,
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's so simple as that. I think we need to also recalibrate what we need to worry about and what we need to not worry about in life.
exactly.
We must make use of that. I mean, I'm lucky I have food on the table. I have a roof over my head. I'll never forget what lessons, these last 2 years of the pandemic brought with them.
And also, where do we see you next, really?
Well, I've just finished Foundation season 2. I've done a guest appearance in that. So it's been one of my most incredibly memorable experiences in my work life. So that'll, I think, release sometime in fall. And that's what I can confirm for now.
Thank you
so much. Thank you very, very much.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.